Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's Power Up series by TopStep. I'm Ron Bro, CEO. Thank you for joining. Our topic for this Power Up is timesheet month-end process options. SuiteProjects Pro, formerly OpenAir, has several options to manage the month-end process for capturing time. The month-end timesheet process is a critical component to be able to manage month-end billing for those time-based invoicing. Choosing the correct option really depends on the amount of time needed to close a month. Let's take a look in OpenAir at some options. So when we talk to customers about the month-end process, we generally find there are three ways we see customers managing the timesheeting. The first option is basically waiting for the month to end and just waiting for the time to come in. And so in the scenario we run into a lot, month end falls on a Wednesday, for example. And so you're putting your time in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you're putting your time in Thursday, Friday, submitting it at the end of Friday. So the month end process really can't begin until the following week. So this is not optimal for a lot of customers because they would rather start the billing process prior to waiting for the following week. And there's also additional delays with approvals. So we try to tell customers there's other options when managing that timesheet process. The one we see more common is around the month-end settings. So you can turn on different settings in the month-end process to manage this. So in this example, coming up at the end of April 2025, the month-end follows on a Wednesday. So we've got settings turned on in this demo account that basically will force the user to enter their time Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You'll notice they cannot enter time the rest of the week. It's grayed out. So they would save and submit their timesheet, and then they would have a second timesheet for the latter part of the week. So this allows the approval process to start sooner and be able to then get the timesheet billing started sooner, therefore not waiting for the rest of the week's time. There is one downside to this process, and that is missing timesheet reporting. You'll be able to see if a timesheet wasn't created for the first half of the week and the second half of the week if a timesheet doesn't exist. But if the timesheet was created for the first half of the week and submitted, but the person doesn't create the second half, currently OpenAir/SuiteProjects Pro doesn't have an option for checking that there's a missing timesheet for that second half of the week. So generally, you'll need to run some reports instead to see how many hours were entered to be able to tell which resources haven't put in a full weeks of time. There are a couple of switches here. One is to just not be able to enter the time within a month across a timesheet. The other option is you could create the beginning timesheet and then automatically, once you submit, create the second half of the timesheet. So there's a couple of different switches in play that you can take a look at to see which will work best for you. The third option we see is where a customer is adopting fiscal weeks. So in that scenario, the weeks always end on a Friday, and they just have a weekly calendar for how they're going to bill. Typically, we see a 4-4-5 type of fiscal weeks where month one is 4 weeks, month two is 4 weeks, and month three is 5 weeks. And this allows clean cutoff for the timesheet capturing every end of the fiscal month, fiscal weeks. Now, but how would you report on that in OpenAir? Because you'll have some trickiness around reports. Well, the way that you do that is you can create custom time ranges. And so custom time ranges, you can create fiscal weeks, fiscal months, and then be able to define those different options here in these. And once you create those fiscal weeks or fiscal months, that allows you to then go in when you're doing your reporting and setting up your reporting. You then can go in and select, instead of selecting here, you can select the fiscal period that you created or the custom time range you created. This does require a bit of maintenance to maintain these fiscal weeks, fiscal periods, but it's typically a year-end process to go ahead and create the next year's, and it does make a nice, tight, clean cutover for timesheeting and billing process without having the concern of missing timesheets not showing up in reports. So that's another option we do see with customers that works quite well. Thank you for joining this Power Up series. We appreciate your loyalty to Top Step. Again, I'm Ron Bro. Follow us on LinkedIn, or if you'd like to see more, check out our website. And thanks again.